I never thought a cup of tea would make me breathe like I was 20 years old again. It was one of those cold mornings when you wake up with a dry throat, a heavy chest, and the feeling that something inside just won't let go. I sat on the bed, coughing, like every day, trying to clear the phlegm that seemed never to want to leave. Breathing was an effort. I didn't feel sick, but neither did I feel healthy. Simply used to living with that constant discomfort. For months I had tried everything. Syrups bought at the pharmacy, remedies recommended by friends, even breathing exercises I saw on the internet. Nothing seemed to work. Every morning started the same. A deep cough, that uncomfortable throat clearing, and the feeling that my lungs were no longer the same as before. I resigned myself to thinking it was part of aging. Until one day, while talking on the phone with my sister, I jokingly mentioned that every morning was like fighting with my lungs. She laughed and said, "Do you remember Grandma's tea? The one she made when we had the flu as kids? You should try it." That comment changed everything. I reviewed my memories, the old notes my mother kept in a hardcover notebook, and there it was. Grandma's tea recipe. Ginger, thyme, lemon, onion. Such simple ingredients that you would never imagine the power they hide. I prepared it skeptically, but also with a spark of hope. And that's when I felt it. It wasn't immediate, like in the TV commercials, but it was clear. My chest started to loosen, the cough became lighter, and my breathing deeper. That night I slept without interruptions for the first time in weeks. And when I woke up, I didn't have to cough. Today, I want to share that recipe with you. It's not magic, but it is powerful. I want to explain how to prepare it, why it works, and how you can incorporate it into your life if you also feel like your lungs are no longer the same. All with natural ingredients you probably already have in your kitchen. But before telling you more, I want to know something about you. How old are you and where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to know who I'm helping today. For a long time, every morning was a battle. Not with the alarm clock or the cold, but with my own body. I would wake up with a dry cough, then a deeper one, until finally managing to expel some phlegm. I felt like there was a weight inside my chest, as if someone had placed a stone right on top of my lungs while I slept. It was an unpleasant, constant feeling. Not painful, but exhausting. A kind of congestion that never seemed to go away. Like something was trapped inside me and didn't want to let me go. At first I thought it was the weather change or maybe dust in the house, but the days went by and the phlegm stayed, thicker and more annoying each time. Breathing deeply was difficult, and sometimes even talking became uncomfortable because of that persistent throat irritation. Like almost everyone, I did what you do in these cases. I went to the pharmacy. They recommended cough syrups, balsamic lozenges, effervescent tablets. I tried everything. One in the morning, another at noon, and at night I hoped something would work. But the results were always the same. Slight relief. And the next day, it all started over. I soon started sleeping badly. Falling asleep was hard because that feeling of having a heavy chest wouldn't let me rest peacefully. I would wake up in the middle of the night wanting to cough with a dry throat, feeling short of breath. The next day, the tiredness piled up. I felt slower, more irritable, like my body was constantly struggling just to keep me awake. And with that tiredness came something harder to recognize: anxiety. Because having a cold you know will pass is one thing, but living daily with the feeling that something inside you isn't right and doesn't improve is another. I wondered if it was normal, if it was age, or if I was starting to develop something more serious. But at the same time, I didn't want to exaggerate. I didn't want to go to the doctor just to be told it was part of getting old. I started living with that discomfort, as if it were another guest in my body. I resigned myself. I thought, maybe this is what happens to everyone over a certain age. Maybe this is the new normal. And so weeks passed, even months. My routine was the same. Wake up, cough, try to clear the phlegm, take something, wait for it to pass, and repeat the next day. I avoided cold places, covered myself more than usual, tried steam inhalations. But nothing seemed enough. It was a hard time, more mentally than physically. Because when you feel uncomfortable constantly, everything else starts to weigh more. Small daily tasks become bigger. Going for a walk wasn't pleasant anymore because the cold air made me cough. Talking a lot tired me. And all this, little by little, made me feel older than I really was. It wasn't until I looked back again at what my grandparents did, at what was used before there were so many packaged products, that I found a different way out. Something simpler, more natural, but above all, more effective. Although at that moment I still didn't know it. And it all started with a cup of tea, a recipe my grandmother prepared without much science, but with a lot of wisdom. A recipe that would change my routine forever. I remember that moment perfectly, as if it were yesterday. I was talking on the phone with my sister, who was hearing me cough from the other side of the line. She said teasingly, "That cough of yours reminds me of when we were kids, and Grandma made us that tea that smelled weird, but made us breathe like athletes." I let out a forced laugh, more from nostalgia than the joke. But then I thought about it. Grandma's tea. I hung up and went down to the storage room. Among old boxes and dusty books, I found that hardcover notebook my mother had kept. On the first page, in tight handwriting and faded blue ink, was the recipe. "For days of tight chest," it said. And below, the ingredients she used to pick from the garden or ask the local grocer for. "I used it when winters were harsh and there was no doctor nearby," my grandmother told me, wrapped in her shawl while stirring the contents of a small pot over the wood stove. She was a simple woman, with rough hands and a calm look. She had no formal education nor spoke of technical things, but she knew exactly which plant was good for what. If your stomach hurt, if you had insomnia, if you couldn't breathe well, she always had something in her kitchen, and everything was natural. No pills, no labels, just herbs, roots, honey, and thyme. That tea was prepared with an almost ceremonial care. It wasn't just throwing things into boiling water, it was slicing the ginger thinly, adding finely chopped red onion, crushing a bit of fresh thyme, and always, never missing, a slice of lemon with peel included. Then, she let everything simmer slowly, allowing the aroma to fill the house like an invisible balm. And just before serving, she added a teaspoon of thick honey she bought at the market from a trusted beekeeper. That night, I decided to make it for the first time in decades. I had everything at home, which surprised me, as if that recipe had been waiting for the exact moment to come back to me. I chopped, boiled, mixed, and soon the steam started filling my kitchen with a scent so familiar it made me close my eyes. It was like going back to childhood, as if my grandmother was there, sitting beside me. The tea didn't look especially pretty. A dull golden color, with small floating bits and that sweet spicy aroma. I hesitated for a moment. I thought, will this really make me feel better? I sat with the warm cup in my hands, brought the rim to my nose and took a sip. The first surprise was the warmth, not only in the throat, but in the chest. I felt a heat slowly going down, as if something was cleaning from the inside. The cough didn't disappear instantly, of course, but it softened. Like the body recognized that flavor, that mix of ingredients I couldn't understand with reason, but remembered with the soul's memory. I couldn't help but get emotional, not only because of the relief, but because at that moment I felt my grandmother was taking care of me again. Through that tea, that simple and powerful recipe, she was still there, guiding me, protecting me, and giving me back something I thought I had lost, the ability to breathe deeply and without fear. You might be wondering the same thing I wondered that night while sipping the warm cup. Why does this tea work so well? How is it possible that something so simple can bring relief I didn't find in so many syrups, pills, and commercial remedies? The answer isn't magic, but the wisdom of generations, and also science. Let's start with the ingredients. Each has a specific role that together forms a kind of rescue team for your lungs. Ginger, for example, isn't just for flavor. It is one of the best natural anti-inflammatories. It contains compounds called gingerols and shogols, which help relax the muscles of the airways and reduce inflammation in the bronchi. Also, it stimulates blood circulation, improving oxygen transport throughout the body. Red onion is much more than a kitchen ingredient. It's loaded with quercetin, a flavonoid with powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. It acts as a mucolytic, meaning it helps dissolve the thick mucus accumulated in the lungs, making it easier to expel when coughing. It also has antimicrobial properties that can help fight mild respiratory infections. Thyme, that small aromatic leaf, is one of the great allies of respiratory health. It contains thymol, an essential oil with antiseptic and expectorant properties. Thyme stimulates the mucus glands in the bronchi, helping loosen phlegm and clear the airways. Plus, its penetrating smell helps clear the nose almost immediately, even just from the steam. Lemon, especially with its peel, provides vitamin C and citrus compounds that strengthen the immune system. Its acidity also helps dissolve the stickier phlegm, easing its exit. Additionally, the sour taste awakens the senses and revitalizes the body. Honey, finally, is a natural soother. Its smooth texture coats the throat, relieving irritation and reducing the constant need to cough. And not only that, it also has antimicrobial properties, helps relax the body, and adds a sweetness that turns the remedy into a pleasant moment. Now, besides the ingredients, the very process of preparing and drinking the tea offers benefits. The hot steam rising from the cup immediately relieves nasal congestion and moistens the airways. It's like a small inhalation session without any device. Deeply inhaling that steam is the first step for the body to start releasing what it has trapped. And here is where modern science and ancient wisdom meet. While industrial medicines usually focus on suppressing symptoms quickly, often using chemicals the body doesn't always tolerate well, this kind of natural remedy works more gently, but deeply. It doesn't block the cough, it makes it more effective. It doesn't mask the problem, it helps solve it from within. Also, unlike many syrups that can cause artificial drowsiness or stomach discomfort, this tea has added benefits. It relaxes you naturally, hydrates you, and improves sleep quality. A well-rested and well-hydrated body recovers faster, and that, believe me, makes a difference. So no, it's not a miracle. It's the sum of natural elements working in harmony with your body. It's a recipe that doesn't promise miraculous cures, but real, deep relief, and above all, human. Because sometimes, what we need most isn't a new medicine, but a return to simplicity, a return to what works. Now it's time to share with you what changed my mornings, relieved my chest, and gave me back something as simple and powerful as the ability to breathe calmly. This is the recipe my grandmother left me without knowing that one day, decades later, it would become my salvation. You don't need to be a cooking expert or have sophisticated utensils. You just need the desire to take care of yourself and a few minutes of your time. The ingredients she used were simple, but each with an intention. Ginger, honey, lemon, thyme, cinnamon, onion. Do you have them? Surely most are already in your kitchen, and if not, don't worry. Later I'll tell you how you can make variations if you're missing any. The important thing is to understand that each one has a role. The onion, for example, is the shield against congestion. Ginger, the push to the system. Honey, the hug for your throat. And thyme, that aroma that starts healing from the steam. The preparation is as therapeutic as the tea itself. It's part of the process. Grandma used to say that medicine starts the moment you begin preparing it. So do it calmly, with intention, as if you were preparing a gift for someone you love very much, because that someone is you. First, put water in a pot, enough to fill 2 good cups. Turn on the heat, and while it heats, slice the ginger thinly. You don't need to peel it if it's clean. Also, cut a piece of onion into thick slices. Don't worry about the smell. What seems strong at first becomes relief once it enters your body. Add the ginger and onion to the water as soon as it starts boiling. Then, add a cinnamon stick, some fresh or dried thyme leaves, and the peel of a piece of lemon. Don't squeeze the lemon yet. Let everything simmer gently for at least 10 minutes. The kitchen will fill with a strong aroma, a mix of countryside, medicine, and memory. When the mixture is well infused, turn off the heat and let it rest for about 5 more minutes with the pot covered. That's Grandma's secret, letting the heat finish its work. Strain the infusion and serve it hot in a cup. Just before drinking, add the lemon juice and a teaspoon of honey. Stir with a wooden spoon if you have one. Then breathe deeply. Bring the cup close to your face and let the steam enter through your nose. Drink it slowly, with pauses, as if each sip were a sigh. When to drink it? Grandma always drank it in the morning before breakfast. She said that was when the lungs were the most congested and the body the most receptive. She also recommended it before sleeping, especially on cold days or when you felt your chest tight. You can take it once or twice a day for a few days until you feel relief. In my case, I noticed changes from the first cup, but I kept drinking it for several more days as a cleansing routine. And what if you don't have all the ingredients? It's okay. If you don't have time, you can use oregano. If there's no cinnamon, it's not a big deal. If you don't have lemon, at least use honey. Ginger and onion are the most important. The essential thing is to keep the spirit of the recipe: warm, cleanse, comfort. And always remember this advice my grandmother repeated tenderly while handing me the cup with her wrinkled hands. Tea not only heals the body, it also heals the soul. So don't drink it in a hurry. Make this moment a ritual, because in a world that runs too fast, sometimes the most healing thing is to stop, prepare something good, and breathe. That night, after carefully preparing the infusion with a bit of skepticism, I sat in my favorite armchair with the warm cup in my hands. Outside, it was gently raining, as if the world also wanted to slow down. Bringing the steam close to my face was the first relief. Just with that, I felt something inside me begin to open. I remembered myself 20 or 30 years ago when I breathed without thinking, without effort, without fear of the cough that stalks every morning. I took the first sip. The taste was strong, yes, but not unpleasant. Sweet from the honey, spicy from the ginger, with that earthy background of the onion and that aroma only time can give. I closed my eyes and felt the warmth travel down my throat, across my chest, and somehow seemed to push something out. It wasn't just a drink, it was a breath. That night I slept differently. There was no dry cough that usually woke me in the middle of the night. I didn't feel that pressure in my chest when turning over, nor the choking sensation when lying down completely. For the first time in a long time, I fell asleep with a relaxed body and a calm mind. The rest was so deep that I didn't even notice what time the sun began to enter through the window. But what really surprised me was the next morning. I got up and, without realizing it, went straight to the kitchen. And that's when I noticed something strange. Silence. Not the silence outside, but mine. I wasn't coughing. I hadn't woken up with that thick congestion, nor with the need to clear my throat again and again to speak. My throat didn't burn. My chest didn't feel heavy. I stopped suddenly, as if my body took a moment to process what was happening. I breathed deeply through my nose, and the air entered without obstacles. I didn't remember the last time that had happened. I got emotional. I didn't cry, but my eyes got moist. I felt I had regained something I thought was lost, the feeling of being well without effort, that my body was finally making peace with me. My daughter was the first to notice. She came into the kitchen while I was making coffee, looked at me and said, "Dad, what about that cough of yours? I haven't heard you once today." I just smiled. "A grandma's recipe," I replied. She came closer, put her hand on my shoulder, and looked at me with that affection only children know how to give. "You look better, really. What did you do?" And that's when I knew it wasn't just a feeling. What had changed wasn't just the phlegm, or the chest, or the sleep. It was everything. It was the way I felt about myself, as if I had finally given myself permission to take care, to believe I can still improve, that there are still simple things that can change everything. I don't know if the same will happen to you the first night, but if you're here, if you've read this far, if you felt that load in your chest, that cough that won't go away, that unexplained tiredness, then I understand you. And I know it's worth trying, because sometimes the most powerful thing isn't an expensive treatment, nor a strange machine. It's a hot cup, some countryside ingredients, and a recipe that holds the love of those who cared for us before we learned to care for ourselves. After that night of relief, something changed in me. Not only did I start preparing the tea regularly, but I also began to take a real interest in how my lungs worked. And I asked myself a question I had never seriously considered before. Why do we accumulate so much phlegm with age? I always thought it was normal, part of aging, but it's not exactly like that. Over the years, the body becomes slower at eliminating toxins. The respiratory system, like any other, wears down if not cared for. And if we spend hours in closed places, without moving, breathing dry or polluted air, it's no surprise our lungs start filling with mucus. I realized phlegm isn't the problem itself, but a sign, a warning the body gives to tell us something isn't working as it should. It could be mild inflammation, chronic irritation, or simply a response to an unhealthy environment. And here's the interesting part. Many of the factors causing that accumulation are in our hands. The first, and perhaps the most ignored, is lack of hydration. Not drinking enough water makes mucus thick and sticky, much harder to expel. And how many of us, at a certain age, stop drinking water because we're not that thirsty anymore? Big mistake. The body still needs that vital liquid to clean, lubricate, and flow. Another silent culprit, dry air. We live in closed houses with heating or fans that dry the environment. The result? The airways dry out too, get irritated, and produce more mucus to compensate. The solution is simple but powerful. Open the windows, ventilate the house, let the air circulate. Breathing fresh air, even for a few minutes a day, changes everything. And of course, there's sedentarism. I learned the hard way. Spending hours sitting without moving the body makes the lungs not fully expand, the diaphragm not work properly, oxygen not reach the whole body well. Walking at least 15 minutes a day, stretching, breathing deeply while walking, all that activates circulation, mobilizes the chest, and helps naturally clean the lungs. Over time, I understood that tea is only part of the care. It's a help, a push, a moment of relief. But what's truly important is a change in mindset. Start treating your lungs as what they are, a silent engine working day and night to keep us alive. And like any engine, if neglected, it deteriorates. If cared for, it lasts many more years. Today, I know caring for the lungs isn't just for the sick. It's for anyone who wants to live better. Breathing easily shouldn't be a luxury. It should be something we defend, protect, cultivate. Because when we breathe well, everything else improves. Sleep, energy, mood, digestion, mind. So my advice isn't just to drink the tea. My advice is to observe yourself, to listen to your body, to give yourself permission to change small habits that can give you years of well-being. Don't wait for something to fail before you start caring for it. Because as my grandmother said, while warming the infusion at night, breathing without pain is a blessing, but caring for your lungs so they don't hurt, that is wisdom. After sharing this recipe, many people have written to me with very important questions. And I'm glad they do, because that means they're taking their health seriously. So today, I want to answer the most frequent doubts and warn you about the most common mistakes that can ruin the benefits of this tea. Can I drink this tea if I have diabetes? Yes, but with one condition. Don't add honey if you are diabetic or have unstable blood sugar levels. Honey has many beneficial properties, but it is also a natural sugar and can raise blood glucose. If this is your case, simply omit it or consult your doctor if you can use a substitute like natural stevia. The rest of the ingredients, like onion, ginger, thyme, or lemon, don't negatively affect sugar and can even help strengthen the immune system. What if I have hypertension? You can also drink it, but with some precautions. Ginger, for example, is known for its ability to improve circulation, but in some very sensitive people, it can cause a slight increase in blood pressure if consumed excessively. The key here is balance. Use a moderate amount, don't overdo it, and watch how your body reacts. As always, if you are taking blood pressure medication, consult your doctor first. What if I get heartburn? This is a very common question, especially among older people. Some ingredients like ginger or garlic, if used excessively, can cause a bit of reflux or heartburn. To avoid this, make sure the tea isn't too concentrated. You don't need an infusion so strong to be effective. Also, never drink it on an empty stomach. Accompany it with something mild, like a whole grain cookie or a piece of toast. You can also reduce the amount of garlic or ginger and increase the proportion of gentler ingredients like lemon or thyme. Is this tea safe for children or people over 80? Yes, but with some adaptations. For children over 5 years old, a much milder version can be offered, with less ginger and no garlic. Avoid honey in children under 1 year for digestive safety reasons. For people over 80, the tea can be an excellent option, especially if there is congestion or cough. Just be sure to adjust the quantities and not make it too strong. And of course, if the person is taking many medications or has specific conditions, it's best to consult their doctor. Now, let's talk about common mistakes many people make when preparing this recipe. First mistake: boiling the ingredients too much. When you boil for too long, especially the ginger or honey, you can destroy part of their properties. Instead of boiling, it's ideal to bring the water to a boil, turn off the heat, and add the ingredients with the residual heat. Let it rest for at least 15 minutes with the lid on so the vapors concentrate, and then strain if you prefer. Second mistake: adding honey in boiling water. This is very common and can nullify the antibacterial effects of honey. Honey should never be heated at very high temperatures. Add it once the tea has cooled a bit, when it's still warm but not burning. Third mistake: storing it badly. Some people prepare a big pot and leave it in the fridge for several days. This may seem practical, but it's not ideal. As hours pass, the tea loses potency and flavor. Also, if not stored well covered, it can get contaminated. It's best to prepare it fresh every day, or at most, have it ready for the next day. Final advice: prepare this tea as if you were taking care of someone you love. Because that's what you're doing, taking care of yourself. Take your time, breathe the steam as you do it, sit calmly to drink it. Health starts in those moments of connection with simplicity. And if you make a mistake once, it's okay. We're all learning. What matters is trying again, with love, with patience, and with faith that your body can feel good again. Sometimes what encourages us most to try something new isn't a scientific fact or a list of benefits. It's hearing from someone like us, with our same doubts, our same ailments, who already tried it and saw results. That's why I want to share with you some stories from people who have written to me. Real, simple stories, full of truth, about how this tea changed their mornings, their nights, and even their family relationships. Maria del Carmen, 75 years old, Seville. For years I used the nebulizer every morning. It was almost a routine. I woke up with a feeling of heaviness in my chest, with that cough that won't go away, and that phlegm that seems sticky. My daughter told me about the tea. At first I thought, bah, another grandma remedy. But I tried it. The first night I didn't notice much. But on the third day, something changed. I got up and didn't have to go straight to the nebulizer. I breathed better, freer, and that's how I started leaving the nebulizer for emergencies, not as part of my routine. Today, tea is the first thing I prepare when I wake up. Don Ernesto, 83 years old, Mendoza. I had been sleeping badly for years. I went to bed and the congestion started. I felt like I was choking a little every night. My granddaughter, who is a nurse, made me this tea one winter night. I drank it hot, sitting in bed, and covered myself up to the neck. That night I slept straight through, something that hadn't happened to me in a long time. I thought it was coincidence, but repeating it every night, I understood it wasn't. The steam, the heat, the ingredients, everything acted gently but firmly. Today, it's part of my routine, like brushing my teeth. What I'm most grateful for isn't just sleeping better, but waking up without that chest tightness.
Claudia, 28 years old, Guadalajara.
My grandfather is my favorite person. He is 87 years old, and although he was always strong, lately he lived with that chronic cough that bothers so much. A friend told me about the tea, and I prepared it one afternoon without telling him. He loved the smell. I sat with him and served a cup. Since then, it's our little ritual. We drink it together every afternoon while watching the sunset from the window. He says he feels his chest clearer, sleeps better, and no longer wakes up to spit phlegm like before. But the nicest thing is that tea gave us something more, a daily moment of connection we didn't have before. Raul, 69 years old, Bogota. I'm an ex-smoker, and my lungs have paid the price. I got used to living with cough, clearing my throat all the time, feeling fatigued climbing stairs. They told me about this tea and, although skeptical, I decided to try it. I drank it for 2 weeks straight. At first, I didn't notice big changes, but one day I realized something simple. I had stopped coughing upon waking, something that used to be automatic. I started taking small walks, breathing deeper without feeling like I was choking. I'm not saying I'm cured, but I feel my body began to thank me for the gesture. These stories have something in common. People who decided to try something natural, simple, and did it with consistency and care. It's not just about the tea, but what it represents. Taking care, dedicating a moment of the day to yourself, reconnecting with the body, with health, and often with those we love. And just as they shared their experiences, I'd love to hear yours. If you've already tried this recipe, tell me in the comments how you felt, how it went, what changed for you. Because every testimony, every cup, is more than a remedy. It's an act of care, a way to tell the body, here I am, and I want to help you. At the end of this journey, I want you to keep something very simple but powerful. This isn't magic. It's forgotten wisdom. We live surrounded by pills, syrups, inhalers, and often think only what comes in a box can help us. But the truth is that for generations, our grandmothers already knew what to do when the chest tightened, when phlegm wouldn't let you breathe, when the cough stole your sleep. And they didn't need a medical prescription. They just needed what they had in the kitchen: an onion, some ginger, hot water, and above all, time. Time to care for yourself. Time to prepare something with your own hands, something that not only nourished the body, but also the soul. Today I've shared that recipe with you, not only because it works, which it does, but because it's a reminder that many times what you need to feel better is closer than you imagine. Don't wait for your body to scream at you. Don't get used to living with phlegm, with cough, with that choking feeling that seems normal.
It's not normal.
And you don't have to resign yourself to living like that. This tea is not a miraculous solution, but it is a gesture, an act of self-love, a breath. Literally, do it for you, for your lungs, for the days ahead that deserve to be lived with more air, more lightness, more calm. Do it for that walk you want to enjoy without stopping, for that laugh you want to let out without coughing, for that hug you want to give without feeling out of breath. Now tell me, did you already know this recipe? Do you have another that has worked for you or someone you love? Tell me in the comments. I'll love to read you. It's good for all of us to know we're not alone on this path of self-care. And if you liked this video, if you feel you learned something, if you believe this could help someone else, share it. Send it to your sister, your father, your neighbor who's always coughing, that friend who no longer sleeps well. Maybe what you just heard is exactly what they need, and you can be the bridge. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming videos. Every week we share advice, recipes and reflections made especially for you who know that aging doesn't mean giving up. It means learning to live better. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking care. And above all, thank you for trusting again in the small gestures that, in the end, bring the most relief.
See you in the next video.
Breathe deeply and keep going.